Welcome back, everybody, to the KD Fishing Cast. In today's episode, in episode 3, we have Bobby Belmonte of 2B Fishing. How you doing, Bobby?
Good, buddy. How's it going, guys?
We're doing good.
Be good.
We were
How's
just
the start of the
talking.
guiding season going for you?
Good, man. It's been busy this year. It's been a lot of benders, like back-to-back days, and a lot of living off of coffees and Red Bulls to keep going. But it's been busy. People have been wanting to go out and fish a lot of crappies this spring, so can't complain, man.
Yeah, I mean it's good
Awesome.
at least. Like this is your second year going into the guiding, right?
Yeah, so like last year I didn't start guiding until May 1st. So I only had a couple crappy trips at that point. But this year, since I started pretty much as soon as I could, ice out, a lot of people have been able to book and get out there, and there's a lot of interesting crappies. Like they're a tough species to kind of stay on and whatnot. So
Yeah.
a lot of people want to go out for them, and I'm happy to show people some spots and put people on fish. So
Yeah. How did you get into guiding?
it's a funny story, actually. So, well, it's not really, you know, I always fished, in the industry, like tournaments and stuff like that. Um, but as like a side thing, when I would go out fun fishing, I would fish with a lot of my buddies from college and whatnot, and a lot of them really didn't fish at all until they started going with me.
Mhm.
And I was able to teach these guys how to target a whole bunch of the species that are in the Kawarthas. And, actually one of them is my buddy Griff, who I now fish tournaments with. He's turned into quite an angler. So it was kind of at a weird time where I'd left working at Peterborough Pro Tackle, and I was kind of wondering like what to do. And talking to a few of my buddies that I fish with, including Griff, and they were just kind of like, yeah, why don't you try opening up a guiding business and seeing if you can make it work, like um this time that we're in right now, the outdoors and people wanting to go fishing and hunting and stuff is very popular. So to make a career in the fishing industry, it seems to be a pretty good time to do something like that. And
Definitely.
I'm still only I'm 28 right now, so I figured I'll put a chunk, 3 or 5 years or something into it, trying to make it work. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, I'm 32, whatever, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
It seemed like your first season went pretty well. How did it kind of stack up to what you were expecting?
Honestly, I was not expecting that busy of a season last year. Like I had a really good first season.
Yeah.
I gotta say it's pretty much all because of social media. Um,
Yep.
95% of my business comes from social media. I get the odd guy from Joe Ford, who works in the Kawarthas too. He's helped me out with some guests before, and I'm sure people have picked up my business card at CanCast and stuff. But for the most part, it's all through my Instagram and whatnot.
Were
Um,
you guys busy at CanCast this year? Lots of people?
I was, you know what? It was funny. Like we were planning on just doing the same thing, like just going there and handing out business cards, saying hi to people.
Yeah.
And then last minute, we decided to do this stupid goldfish game to
Yeah.
goldfish for prizes. And I
Mhm.
just messaged all my sponsors and got a whole bunch of prizes together. And then it was actually a huge hit. I mean, like all the kids came by to do it, but with the kids came their parents, and then the parents started talking to me about the guiding business, and I ended up giving out a ton of business cards that day, a bunch of flyers, got a couple bookings, so it was good.
I didn't win with my fish, but
Oh,
I
neither
was
did I.
hoping to, but
No, I showed up and I was wondering what was going on. You're like, yeah, there's gonna be a dot on the butt of the fish, and I'm like, oh, okay. Didn't get a
Yeah.
dot on the butt of the fish.
no dot for me.
No, neither.
Um, how's your like pre-registration looking for this year compared to last? Going to be even busier?
Yeah, it's going to be busier this year.
Yeah.
Again, because well, for one, I have all of April that I guided. I didn't
Yeah.
do that at
Mhm.
all last year. But like June is already full right now, or almost full, I guess. May is half full maybe, but like it's filling up quicker than it did last year. A lot of the trips get booked sometimes just a week in advance, or even sometimes a few days in advance. because people see it's going to be a nice day out and they're like, oh, let's find a guide, let's go. So I have less of those openings for people that do that this year than I did
Mhm.
last year. So um,
Wow.
my goal is to just try to do more trips than I did last year. And if I do that, I feel like it's a win. So
What do you kind of look for? What's your ideal number of trips in a week? Like, would you
I
go every day pretty much, or
I mean, not every day. Like
no?
I
Yeah.
like 4 days a week is perfect for me
Okay. Yeah.
because then I usually spend 1 or 2 days out fishing with buddies and stuff too. So I
Yeah.
am fishing pretty much the whole week, but
Yeah,
Which
for
is
sure.
pretty cool to say. Like you fish full time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty cool, man. It's like I said, it's a dream job for sure.
Mhm.
There is obviously cons to it. Like there's, you worry about not getting enough trips. Like I worry a lot in the winter and I'm a worrier, like prone to it.
Yeah.
So the winter's like oof, a tough time. But once the spring starts and those bookings start coming in and you start going out there and get into the flow of things, it's a dream job is what it is.
Yeah.
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 And you do a lot of different species. Like I know I've seen crappie, pike, bass, muskie, walleye. Is that like do you do everything through all the seasons, or is it kind of pike and crappie, and then as they open, moving into walleye and bass? Is it just kind of
Yeah,
whatever people want to
it,
do?
it's kind of it's based on the time of year for the most part. Like
Yeah.
I won't go crappie fishing in October, you know what I mean?
No.
Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
or even August, like
Yeah.
they're a spring fish and then they get like damn hard to go find and
Yeah.
whatnot. You kind of have to stumble on them midsummer on a lot of the lakes that we're on. So yeah, it's more the season, we do the crappie and the pike and then walleye opens. And when walleyes open, I may still do some pike and some crappie, but then you get closer to muskie, and then once muskie and bass open, it's pretty much muskie and bass right through um,
For sure.
until November or whenever we stop.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And so, how is it kind of? This must be a lot of pressure going out, needing to be able to consistently put people on fish, knowing you need to go out there and keep them on fish all day. And how do you keep up with that and always keep track of things to be able to always do that? And
at the beginning, like last year when I first started guiding, it was definitely something that I was worrying about. And like I talked to some of the other guides that are around our age, and they were saying, yeah, they worry about it too. It's a normal thing, but
yeah,
um, I try to just, I think the way that it's easy for me is I have a lot of spots on a
yeah,
lot of different lakes. So, process of elimination some days, like some days, most days it works out,
yeah,
but everybody has tough days.
yeah,
And
for
when
sure.
I run into those tough days, I try to just keep moving around. Like eventually you're going to run into something, especially, I run live scope on my boat. So
Yeah,
things are easier to find than they used to be. And you can stumble on some pretty cool stuff if you just go looking. Um, and Yeah, I think just having a lot of spots and trying to um, fill the day up with other things that are
yeah,
enjoyable other than just catching fish. Like a lot of the people come from the GTA and stuff, and they're not
yeah,
used to being out on the cottage lakes. So for them, like if they see a beaver or if they see, loons or
yeah,
stuff like that, even that is kind of appealing to them at times.
Mhm.
So you try to, do stuff like that. You take them for a boat ride,
yeah. A
all
lot of
that
people would
stuff.
just be super happy with the fact that they're in a fancy, cool boat with all these electronics that
Yeah,
they've never seen before. So it's kind of more to it than just the catching the fish, I guess. Yeah. And
exactly. And like I've run into days where it's tough and like I'll get my client to help me figure out what's going on. Like, okay, let's look at the live scope and try to figure out what the fish are doing. And some days we see the fish and we have to, sit there and retie different things to try to get them to bite. And then, that kind of teaches them stuff that they could be fishing a spot and think there's nothing there. But if they switch to a different bait, like sometimes that's,
yeah.
works.
And I'm
So
sure being out there pretty much every day helps you a lot too, because you're always kind of in touch with where the fish are at in terms of like spawning
sure.
stages and everything and their behavior, what they're doing. So Would
Yeah.
you say it's helped you as far as tournament fishing too? I know you had good results last year. Like, I'm sure it keeps
I
you
mean,
up to date on it. Like,
time on the water is the biggest thing. Like that's what
yeah,
everybody
for
says.
sure.
So yeah, like I had some good events last year on Rice Lake. The last, I don't know, 3 seasons, I've spent a lot of time on Rice Lake, more so than balsam and sturgeon and pigeon,
Yep.
because that was kind of the one that I really wanted to dial in. And I'm happy now that I've had some success out there, and but always changing too, right? Like
Yep.
I've even noticed changes over the 2 or 3 years that I've fished it a lot.
Yeah.
So time on the water definitely helps, though. I mean, the
Right.
fact that
Rice changes fast. Rice is,
oh yeah, man, the pressure out there is crazy.
yeah,
It's unlike
worse every year. Yeah. It's,
Without giving up any like spots or anything like that, how did you find success on Rice?
So again, covering water, like it's a lake that if you were to really look at a map and kind of figure out, you know, where those fish are going to be, you can fish all that stuff if you just keep fishing new water. Like when I was like, 18 or whatever, and I was in the Peterborough Bassmasters, Chris and Corey Johnson came to do like a guest speaker for the club. And they said something that I took with me, and I've had it in my head for years, and I've listened to them, and it's actually helped me. Is that when they go fun fishing or when they're not competing, they always fish new water. Like I
yeah,
mean, maybe sometimes they go out and go back to an old spot, but whenever they get the
mhm,
chance to go fish new stuff, they do. So that just gives them more options, more waypoints. And then pre-fish time comes, and all you have to do is go through those waypoints and figure
yeah,
out, okay, here's the 5 that are working. That's the 5 I'm going to fish tournament day.
for
And
sure.
yeah, there's times you can get screwed because say something happens overnight and you get a big cold front come in, maybe it messes up the fish, or you get some rice. Rice sucks when it's calm. Like you need some wind on rice to get them
Yeah.
chewing good. So, when it's calm out there, that's when it's tough. And if you have a windy week and then tournament day, it's flat, it can be a grind. So when I run into a situation like that, it's how many waypoints can I hit in a day? And hopefully 5 of them have a big fish on them.
Yeah,
So,
just
Yeah,
keep
for sure.
moving kind of thing.
and
And rice,
with live scope, we can do that
Yeah.
because with live scope, you can roll into an area and you can figure out if you want to stay there or not, at least. Uh, you may see fish and maybe they won't bite, and then maybe you decide to come back, or maybe you decide to stay there a little longer. But if you don't see anything, then leave,
Yeah.
yeah.
right? It's
One thing I hear conflicted a lot on rice for you on like on your good days is do you catch a lot of big fish or is it like a 5, 6 just to the right ones on
usually
rice?
5, or like anywhere from 5 to 10
Yeah,
bites.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's seems to be the way for big ones on rice. It's
Yeah.
got to find them here and there and
It's weird
piece it
because you can have
together.
a spot one day that's working, and like say you roll up to a spot that's on and it's got two and a halves on it, right? And you catch two and a
Yeah,
halves and you go, oh, okay, like that's all right. That's gonna be a spot in the milk run because you can roll up to it the next day and it's got 2 4 and a halves. It's
yeah,
just it's just what's working at what point of the year.
yeah, for sure. There's so much different stuff in rice. I like rice is a fun lake to try to figure out because there's everything. Like you've got rivers on both ends, tons of islands, drop offs, rock, every type of weed you could imagine. So it's so many different places for them to move. It makes it tricky to
Yeah,
find them, especially consistently on rice. I find it's
yeah, and I mean the thing is there's a lot of good spots out there. Like I
yeah,
have,
for sure.
I don't know, 60, 70 zones on rice, maybe, like a lot of zones. And some of them
Yeah,
are small, some of them are big, but um often it's like tournament day, you work with like 2 or 3, maybe 5, and
yeah,
that's where you get your bites, at least for me.
yeah,
So
sure. Um, Back to the guiding. What's kind of your average, like what do you normally your kind of demographic of people? Is it families, like younger people, or Mostly like fishermen? Like what's your kind of
Um,
average, most of your clients, what are you looking at?
I have two kinds of clients, I think.
Okay.
I have a chunk of clients that knew me from Pro Tackle when I worked there. And
Yeah.
like, I was the guy that they came in and talked fishing with. And a lot of them have now booked trips with me and now we fish together. So there's a group of them. And those guys it's kind of cool fishing with them too, because they're all into that high end kind of tackle. So we can go out there and talk about, mega bass stuff or whatever, high end rods, live scope, all the stuff that's in and fancy right now, because I'm into that stuff. And I was into that stuff kind of when I was working at Pro Tackle pretty heavily. So there's those guys, and then there's just your typical, a lot of people from the GTA, because that's the people that want to go out fishing, but definitely younger, I would say. Like you
Okay.
get I would say within 10 years in both directions of my age, maybe. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
I'm one of the younger guides in the area, so maybe it's an age thing that gets into me, but
Mhm.
um, that seems to be most of my clients are around, either their 20s or their 30s or
Do you use a lot of JDM stuff in our lakes around here? Like
yeah,
bait?
I mean, some stuff. Like I don't go super crazy. Like there's some wild stuff. um
Yeah.
but there's certain baits, like I mean there's some that are blown right out of the water now that everybody knows. Everybody knows about jackal stuff, everybody knows about megabass stuff. Everybody now is getting into the mid strolling and whatnot and getting different baits for that. But like other than the stuff that's like in and kind of known,
Mhm.
I don't go too crazy. Like I use a lot of Z-Man stuff for my smallmouth
Yeah.
fishing. Rapala crankbaits, lipless crankbaits, jerk baits, megabass jerk baits, like, nothing nothing too wild.
Yeah.
I'm seeing more and more of I think mostly thanks to Pure Pro Tackle, I'm seeing so much more of the crazy JDM stuff becoming regular. Like everyone around here seems to be using it. Like the amount of people I saw fishing the dice baits last year, and I was like,
Yeah.
I saw that 2 years ago, and I like was amazed that that even existed. And now it seems like everybody has them in their boat, and it's
Well, it's wild. You can't get them. Like they sell out
yeah, it's
almost instantly.
Yeah.
Um, Truthfully, and I'll be honest here, I haven't tried them yet. I'm
No,
starting to think I'm
neither
trying to
have
get
I.
my hands on them because I'm starting
yeah,
to think there might be some truth to them. Like when you start seeing stuff sell out and nobody's really talking about catching on it and stuff, like
Yeah.
yeah,
You got to give it a try.
yeah.
yeah.
That's what I've
So
noticed with them. I've talked to a lot of people that have them. No one's come out to say though,
yeah,
I
nobody
use
really
these, but
says
they
anything
keep buying
about it.
them. So it's
That's it, right?
yeah,
It doesn't look like anything that would necessarily work. Like it's not supposed to imitate something, but like it's something different. And if
Yeah,
nobody's talking about it, it could be a sneaky bait that's like really good.
what
yeah,
I
for sure.
heard, I read a post about it that said what it's supposed to look like is all the little hairs that come off it are
Mhm.
supposed to imitate like a group of small like bloodworms, is
Really?
what
Oh,
I read. But it was on an article about lake trout fishing with them. So it
beach
was,
trout fishing with it
so
too,
I'm
eh?
not sure how bloodworms would work for that compared to for bass or something. So it's
all
something I want
all
to
I
learn
can
more about, but it's
Yeah, all I can really say about them is it, like you guys said, it's something weird and different that they're not used to
yeah,
seeing.
exactly.
And a bass, the only way that it can kind of check out what something is by feeling it with its mouth. So
Mhm.
it, I feel like it's one of those situations where they just kind of go over to it because it's not your typical tube or whatever that comes to the bottom, and
Yeah,
Mhm.
they go over and they're like, "What is that?" And next thing you know, they're hooked. So, but we'll see.
yeah,
I got to get some and try
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, we're gonna give
for
it a
So
try
sure.
too. So I looked on your website. You have a diploma in agriculture or aquaculture?
yeah, so I went to Fleming in Lindsay and I took fish and wildlife for 2 years. And then once you graduate fish and wildlife, you can take aquaculture, which is actually like farming fish or
Mhm.
raising fish. So when I was done college, actually, the first job I had was at a fish farm in Zephyr, which is like near Uxbridge,
Okay.
and it was farming. largemouth bass
Oh,
for,
really?
yeah, for private pond stocking. It's the reason why I don't work there anymore is it closed down after about around a year of me working there. There's also a peat farm that's on the same property, and Buddy had to choose between either keeping the peat farm or the fish farm, so he closed the fish farm.
Mhm.
But yeah, for a year I was farming largies, and like there was a whole bunch of other stuff there. There was crappies, walleyes, like all the walleyes that are at Bass Pro Shop in their tank, we sold them those.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, at the Niagara one or whatever. Like we
Yeah.
had to, they were in a 10-foot deep pond, and we actually had to fish them out and then uh
Very cool.
ship them off to these guys for Bass Pro Shop. Yeah.
Do you find that anything you learn in that program you can implicate into like fishing now?
Uh, Aquaculture, no. Like actually, it's funny when I first started aquaculture, like the first 2 or 3 weeks of it, like doing the program, we went on a trip, and I was like, yeah, no, this is not what I want to do, because a lot of it is just feeding fish, like
Really?
scooping feed and chucking it into a pen.
Hmm.
So it was definitely not aquaculture, but fish and wildlife, like there's a lot of ID stuff in that course, like aquatic plants. That has helped me, knowing what milfoil is and the different milfoils and coontail and what, pond weeds, all that stuff. Um, lot of just ID would probably be the biggest thing. Bait ID, minnows and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, Other than that, I mean, I don't know. You know what? Like, honestly, I didn't go to a ton of lectures and went fishing a lot while I was in school. So
Right.
I think that
There
probably
you go.
helped
Then you were
more.
learning while you were in school. It's perfect.
Yeah, like I was that guy who was not in the lecture hall. I was out fishing every day. So that probably helped a bit more with my fishing, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Time on the water.
Yeah.
Do you have any like funny guiding stories or anything? Like any crazy stories you got to tell? Anything?
So when Kaplan told me that he was gonna talk to me about this,
Yeah.
I was thinking, and like I don't think I've done it enough for any like long enough for any crazy stories,
Yeah.
but I think there's definitely like some big curveballs that have hit me throughout the day. Like um I had a guest come on my boat who actually won one of my contests. So it's not like he really booked me, but he came out,
Yeah.
and he has never casted before. He had only ever jigged off the side of the boat, or like just dipped his rod in from the dock and stuff.
Yeah.
So when he told me that, I was like, okay, like this is going to be challenging. And like, I was trying to show him how to cast and stuff, but then you throw in 40K wins on top of it that day. And it's like, holy smokes. Okay. So what happened is we were walleye fishing, and I saw a bunch of them like rolling around on a hump and on the live scope. And I just hit spot lock about a cast length away, and I would just fire it out for him, hand him the rod, and was just like slow retrieve back. And he
Yeah.
ended up catching them that way. Um, and then like I've had a guest on my boat who couldn't stand up, like had to sit in the seat all day. And we were thankfully it was a dragging bite, so it was relatively easy to do. But
Yeah.
there's no like funny stories. I think there's
Yeah.
just
I'm
there's
sure some will
curveballs.
come over time, but
And like you talk to people, and they don't tell you before they come on a trip, like, hey, I don't know how to cast, right? They're just
Yeah.
yeah.
excited to
They
come on a
show up
trip. But
Yeah.
then they show up the day, and they're like, oh yeah, I need help casting.
by the
So
way.
so
Yeah.
sometimes your day gets these curveballs, and you have to try to adapt to get
Yeah.
them on fish and to let them have a good time. So
That's probably a big thing that sets apart someone who's a great fisherman from someone that can be a guide, because not everyone would have the patience or will to accommodate that. You need to really want to
yeah,
help people. You need to really want to help them catch fish and really care about that to be able to do that every day. So yeah,
yeah, like some of my buddies don't know how I do that kind of stuff, because
yeah,
you know when they come fishing, it's like fishing with your tournament partner. It's just kind of like
yeah,
you're
exactly.
doing your own thing, he's going to do his own thing, you know right?
Very
But
big change in intensity would be
yeah, yeah,
switching back and forth would be tricky. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
and then on top of it, you're trying to, I mean, some days it's tough for us to catch fish, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So to try to help a person at the same time as really trying to catch the fish yourself, it gets tough at times.
Yeah,
yeah.
Dash and I had this conversation between ourselves. I was like, "Do you think you could sit there and take someone who's never fished before out? Like you'd have to tie their knots, literally cast their rod." And I said no. I don't think I couldn't have that patience if I'm being honest with you.
You know what? You know what's one thing that kind of I've learned is when a lot of these people come on the boat, like a bad day for us could be a great day for them on the
Yeah,
water.
Yeah.
yeah,
So keeping that in the back of your mind, and as long as you stay positive and have a good time out there, like have a good time with whoever you're out with. If they're trying to cast and it's going terrible, laugh about it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
have a good time with it, try to teach them, but the main thing is just having a good time. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, even if they, I've had clients like with musky fishing, like lose a fish and then they don't catch a fish that day, right? Or
Yeah.
they get follows and they don't end up catching a muskie. But as long as you do something that they enjoy the experience, they seem to be happy at the end of the day, and they do know it's fishing, right? It's
yeah,
not
The other
catching.
thing I was thinking about beforehand too is like when we ask you like if it's pressuring trying to always consistent be able to have good days. I was thinking about the fact that like as tournament anglers, our idea of a good day is probably very different from most people booking a guide. Like if most people that come out, if they catch a couple, like if they catch two big bass in a day, they're probably ecstatic about it. Whereas if we did that, we'd be like, okay, only two, we need more. We need like
Yeah, exactly.
it's
Like, and I know we're all guilty of it being tournament guys where we go out and we go, okay, what was our bag today?
yeah,
And you
exactly.
always
Yeah,
go, okay,
every
let's
time.
try to at least get 15 pounds, let's try to at least
Yeah.
get 17, right? And yeah, they're not thinking that at all.
No,
They just
they
out
Right.
there
just
and
want to
have
catch a
fun.
fish.
Yeah, yeah.
So where can people contact you to book a trip? How can they go about doing that?
So all my info is on my website, tobefishing.ca. And then from there, you can get access to my email and stuff to book trips and my phone number. But most people who are booking trips with me check me out on social media first. So at @2b_fishing. And from there, you'll see all my posts and what clients are catching with me. And that's been a popular way that people have been booking with me so far. So
Yeah, I'll link all of Bobby's contact information and stuff like that down in the description below. So you can just go and click the link there and it'll take you directly to his website.
yeah, man.
Perfect.
Awesome. What are you doing for tournaments this year?
Griff and I are fishing the shootouts. So
Nice.
not all of them. I think we're doing two on rice, two on sturgeon, one on balsam. And then there's a handful of the opens. I do a Canada Day open
Yeah.
on sturgeon, bass opening day weekend. I do one on rice, a couple fall ones on rice.
A little
Um,
bit of everything here and there.
yeah, last year I actually didn't sign up for anything because I wanted to keep the whole schedule open and
Yeah.
plan around
Hmm.
how I didn't know how busy I was going to be. But this year, because I was kind of prepared, I scheduled my tournaments and now I'm kind of filling in the gaps with the guides. So, yeah, I got some more time to do some more events this year and looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be
What
fun.
shootout are you doing enough to qualify for the classic?
I think so. I think you have to do five, right?
It was six last year.
Is it six?
Yeah.
Maybe five or six. I don't know. It might be different this year too. They did a lot of restructuring stuff. So
Yeah, I signed up for five. If I need six,
yeah,
I'll probably hop into one more because I'd
very
like to
well could be
try.
No
five this year. I
pressure.
didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to try for the classic. I guess that's kind of
Yeah.
what I work towards is doing that.
And if
Uh,
it's like you're comfortable with too, you shouldn't need to fish more than that. Like you should get good finishes on rice and so good
Open
finishes on
so.
sturgeon. So
Open
yeah,
so.
so always the plan. I mean, not to say
Yeah.
that's guaranteed, but
Gotta put the time in.
yeah, you got
So
lots of time on the water at least. So
yeah.
Yeah,
there
that's
you
for
go.
sure.
Yeah, Kaplan, you got anything else?
What's your favorite lake to fish, Bobby?
For what species?
Let's go for bass.
For bass?
Yeah.
I mean, I've spent a lot of time on Rice Lake, right? Like that in the Kawartha Lakes. That's where I have had my best days catching, sacks over 20 pounds and stuff. But like if I could go anywhere and fish, like I go to the St. Lawrence River. Like it's unbelievable out there.
Yeah.
I haven't spent a ton of time out there, but I've done, my handful of weekends out there, and it's an unbelievable fishery. So
Have you ever done?
I think I'm gonna do a trip this year with my buddies and rent an Airbnb and fish a few days down there and do some filming and stuff. So yeah, that's the coolest place in the world, man.
Have you ever done the early season over there?
No, if it was nicer weather, I'd do it this year. It's just it seems it's pretty cold, and I've talked to people and they said it's not like on fire like it was last year. So if it doesn't warm up before it closes, I may do it like when it opens back up again.
We
Because
went out by Kingston last week, and it was the first time I've ever gone on the St. Lawrence or Lake Ontario and not caught close to 20 pounds. But it
yeah,
was also the first time we ever gone out there and not caught a single bass. So
really, eh?
Dude, it
caught
was so
one out of
bad.
season muskie, and we nothing else. We saw hundreds of fish on live scope and threw everything at them, fished fast, fished slow. I've
Yeah,
never seen it like that in my life.
Yeah, it was
It
wild.
weird.
was,
The water
I
was
think it
so
could
cold. It was
get,
like 41 degrees too.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
if the water temperature gets up above 45, it could get really good in the last couple weeks, but hard to say.
yeah. I
Hopefully.
mean, the time you want to kind of hit it is when they all push shallow, because then they're kind of all in the bays and
We're all on.
easy to
Yeah.
catch. And
Yeah,
um
we were seeing fish in 40 feet and it was like different. It's not what I'm comfortable with, but
the weather's been
yeah.
weird. We keep getting like a
Yeah.
few nice days and then it snaps back to cold. Like it's
Get some hope and then a little slap in the face. Never
that's
mind.
right.
Yeah. All right, we're just about out of time there. So, anything else? Any final thoughts, or just looking
Nope.
Time
forward
on
to a
the
good
water,
season?
folks. Time on the
Yeah.
water.
Yep.
That's the
Well,
key to
Bobby, thanks for coming on the podcast. Thanks for speaking your knowledge and sharing your guiding experience with us.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Good luck this season.
Yeah, definitely.